Good evening. I'm Munish Gupta, Chairman and Managing Editor of PIO TV for the Global Indian Diaspora. Welcome to a Deepavali or a Diwali special from PIO TV. We wish all of you a wonderful festive season of Hindu New Year that began with Diwali on 14th November 2020. This is the fourth webinar by PIO TV and our affiliates, Foreign Correspondents Club of South Asia, FCC, United News of India, and Glow TV from Africa. We are delighted to provide constant updates and coverage of the historic 2020 US presidential elections. We are being watched in tens of countries and across continents. Just our carriage in Asia and Africa gives us access to a very large audience. I am joined by my colleagues, Mr. S. Venkat Narayan, a veteran journalist and president of the Foreign Correspondents Club of South Asia. And also soon joining us should be Avdesh Tiwari, senior journalist and consulting editor of UNI TV. I am also delighted to have our very special associates from the US, paresh Patel and Priya Samant. And now, as we all have seen the things unfold in the US, it is clear that Joe Biden has emerged as president-elect and Kamala Harris as vice president-elect of USA. We take this opportunity to introduce you to some key players among Indian Americans who made this victory possible for the Democratic Party. I am an Indian American myself. I can tell you that in the 2020 US presidential elections, Indian Americans have played a huge role in every which way, from campaigning to vote for respective parties, to exercise influence by supporting parties in large numbers, and also, of course, financial contributions. We have seen 15 to 16 Indian American politicians win at the state and federal level. We will now see lots of them in administration in the Biden Harris government. Let's bring you face to face with a few of those instrumental drivers from the Indian American community. We have a special message also on Diwali from President elect Joe Biden and Vice President elect Kamala Harris. Now, let me ask my dear associate Priya Samant from Boston to introduce our other associate, Perry Patel, who our viewers will recognize from our webinars in the last few weeks. Priya, please.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gupta. So, Mr. Perry Patel is a commissioner of Newcastle County, the state of Delaware. He's also a very close friend of the family of the Democratic presidential elect, Mr. Joe Biden. And now I would ask Mr. Perry Patel to introduce the amazing lineup of the special guests on this broadcast who will share their perspective on the 2020 US presidential election. So, Mr. Patel.
Sure, Priya, thank you for that kind introductions. Munishji, if you could have Anil help, Amit's having difficulty using the web link.
But if then we'll have to speak to Amit to tell us to use the link on Google Chrome. The only issue is that, look, coming from different continents, different countries, if you could request him to use that link on the Google Chrome browser, and I think it should open up very quickly. In the meantime, let me also introduce you to a friend that you have seen here before. And while we wait for Mr. Amit Jani,
can you open in Google Chrome?
Anil, you might have to mute Perry for a while so that we can continue. Anil? Yeah. While we wait for Amit Jani to actually sign in, we have a very dear friend who's been with us before. It's Nish Acharya or Nishit Acharya. He's the CEO of Equal Innovation and Innovation Commercialization Organization that works to scale impact worldwide. He's also a senior fellow for the Center for American Progress and a columnist for Forbes. Nish served in the Obama administration as senior advisor to the US Secretary of Commerce and director of the President's National Advisory Council on Innovation and Entrepreneurship. He served as a political appointee in the administration of President Bill Clinton and Massachusetts Governor Deval Patrick. Nish was part of the team that organized President Clinton's groundbreaking trip to India in 2000 and wrote the first presidential Diwali proclamation. We are sitting at Diwali again for President Clinton in 2000, so 20 years later. So you're here for Diwali. Welcome, Nish. Please tell us, while we wait for Amit and Perry to introduce Amit later, tell us, as the dust settles on the president-elect and the vice president-elect, I mean, are we out of that confusion chaos zone? Are things completely done? Can we move forward?
So I think we are 90% out of the zone. I think the states have to certify the election results. That will happen in the next 2 weeks. And then the electors meet in December. So if the president would like to, delay the inevitable in terms of acknowledging Biden's victory, he can certainly do it until the states certify it. But I think what we hope he will do is to release the transition officials to begin working with Biden, particularly on national security issues and sensitive data, and the COVID plan, COVID vaccine plan. Certainly President Trump is delayed the inevitable, but if he can start releasing the transition funds and officials, we can get moving with this, and Biden can start putting his team in place, as well as to take these wonderful vaccine trial results. We just had Moderna today, Pfizer last week, and start putting in a plan to start vaccinating not just the United States, but the world. So hopefully the shenanigans are almost over and we can start moving forward.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Nish. And we are very glad to be joined finally by Mr. Amit Jani. Welcome, Amit, and thank you for making the time to join us. You can please unmute yourself. I will now request our dear friend, Mr. Paresh Patel, to introduce Amit, and congratulations, Amit. Go ahead.
Hey, it's a distinct pleasure to introduce my friend Amit Jani. We've been working since May of 2019 together on the campaign. Amit is a very young, talented 30-year-old Indian who lives in New Jersey, and he has everybody corral with him. Not only Amit's job was to make sure all the Indians support Biden and Harris team, but he had opportunity to work with approximately 11 million Asian American Pacific Islanders. And he was in a position to get everybody. He had made arrangements to get to be on each one of those nationalities and those TVs, each one of their languages. Behind scene, we created approximately a phone bank of approximately, Biden group had 80 million calls that we made over a period of last 18, 19 months. So Amit has been a young and upcoming young gentleman. He's been lucky to, as a community, to have him. He represents a lot of other different associations. You could look him up, but without a further ado, I'm really delighted to work with Amit for last 18 months. And Amit, here you go. Floor is yours. I'm sure everybody has a lot of questions of you. And I know your time is limited. So whatever you could do would be appreciated, Amit.
No, but
Sure.
before you move on, because I want people to know, Amit, you are being watched not just by the Indian diaspora globally, but particularly by non-Indian people also in Africa, by about 100 million people, and of course a lot of people in India. So just want to give a one line that Amit heads up what was called the Asian American Pacific Islanders Coalition, right? That's one. And two, a lot of people are very intrigued about your background. So you hail originally from the state of Gujarat, which is also the state of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And I don't know if you've run into him or met him, but that makes a big introduction. A lot of people are excited to know. And as Perry said, you're just 30 years old, but you've made a huge mark in the Democratic Party, not just in this election, but earlier also in various other political forums. So, floor is yours. Please tell us, as Perry said, about the message. Two things: one, this election and the win, and two, the special Diwali message. Because this is a Diwali special webinar that we are conducting. Thank you.
And Happy New Year to all my friend. Amit, go ahead.
Well, thank you, Paresh, for inviting me on. And Munish, thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it. It's great to be joined by everyone here. First off, Happy New Year. Hope, it's a colorful and prosperous year ahead for the Indian community all across the world, in India, Africa, the US. So thank you again for having me. Like Paresh mentioned, I was a national director for Asian American Pacific Islander Outreach, or API for short, which obviously includes the Indian American and South Asian American communities, but also about 50 other ethnicities throughout the Asian American Pacific Islander communities, Japanese, Korean, Pacific Islander, Hawaiian, etc. So it's a very diverse community, over 11 million voters across the country that are AAPIs, over hundreds of languages, so it's a very diverse community. We have different issue areas, priorities, but I know for this call, the purposes of this call, I know the focus is on the Indian community. So, in terms of the general Asian American Pacific Islander community, I think we really made a difference. And what we like to say, and a lot of members of Congress who are AAPI, like Congresswoman Judy Chu and others, have always kind of said that AAPIs are the margin of victory. We are a newer community to the United States. Like Munish mentioned, I was born in Rajkot, Gujarat. Came here when I was just 1 year old to Jersey City, New Jersey, where I've been for most of my life. I've worked in Democrat politics for most of my career. I worked for the federal government, worked on Capitol Hill, worked for Senator Bob Menendez, as well as Governor Murphy, and most recently for, now President-elect Joe Biden, and, Vice President-elect Kamala Harris. So it's been an honor really learning this experience and just learning the ins and outs of kind of all levels of government. And, my father was actually involved in Indian politics. I think, Munish, you kind of referred to that. And so, I think it's kind of been in the blood for throughout our family. And that's what really interested me particularly. But just to talk a little bit about the Asian American community and the electorate and the role that we played in this election, I think we saw some of the margins in some of the key battleground states. You look at Pennsylvania, Michigan, Texas, et cetera, Nevada. And the Asian American community really made a difference. And I really believe this time around, we were the margin of victory. You look at some of the numbers, this year alone, the early vote, about a little less than 1 million AAPI voters turned out. That's 21% more voters than the entire 2016 AAPI turnout. President-elect Biden now, he carried our community by a margin of almost 2 to 1. So that really bolsters the claim that, our community and the surge that we had in terms of voters and the electorate was a key component to, our victory for the Biden-Harris campaign, especially in some of the narrowly decided states, like I mentioned, that have large Asian populations, including Arizona, Nevada, Georgia, Michigan, et cetera. When we look at the turnout of our community at the state level in most of the key battleground states, the Asian early vote turnout exceeded the total 2016 turnout as a whole. And in every single battleground state, our turnout surged by more than any other ethnic group. Among the states that flipped from red to blue this cycle, the two that certainly stand out, Georgia and Arizona. Georgia hasn't supported a Democrat for president since 1992. And Arizona hasn't since 1996 during the Bill Clinton era. So that narrow and decisive vote margin was less than the surge of our Asian voters. And in Georgia, our Asian voters exceeded their total 2016 turnout by about 58%. And Arizona saw a 41% surge in the early vote. That's all to say, we're the largest growing racial and ethnic group in the country. As a whole, as the Asian Americans, we've had about 25% growth between 2010 and 17. So the reason I mention all those statistics is really to say that our community really matters. I think this time around, we really made the difference. I think if the Asian community, if the Indian American, South Asian community didn't play an active role, like people like Paresh, who's been an amazing leader for us and our campaign, we wouldn't be where we are, and we might not even be victorious. So, I think we owe a lot to our community, and we should be proud of the work that we did to really, make history and shape, the outcome of this election. So just to talk a little bit about, our campaign itself, I know Paresh alluded to it. Some of the work we've done is really unprecedented. For example, this time around, we invest in about 7-figure paid media budget, as well as digital investment. And specifically API, Asian and Indian American, South Asian media, national media on television, radio, print, places like India West. I don't know if folks have seen the Vice or President-elect Biden's op-ed in India West during the last week of the election. If you haven't, I'd certainly encourage that. We've advertised on, TV Asia, Up Colors, ZTV, anything you can think of, News India Times, etc. So, we really wanted to pay a particular focus on our communities, and not only do that, but do it in language. So we actually campaigned in over about 20 Asian American languages and over 6 Indian languages, Hindi, Gujarati, Tamil, etc. So, we're so proud of that fact. We had a team of over a dozen API state and national directors, which, I was so proud of to lead that effort. We had over 14 Asian ethnic groups, including South Asians for Biden, which under that had Hindu Americans for Biden, Jain Americans for Biden, Sikh Americans, et cetera, et cetera. So we're proud of that fact as well. And we had API leadership councils in most key battleground states. So all that combined really made a difference. And I think that's what really led to our victory.
Thank you. That was a good roundup, Amit. But, a couple of things that come to my mind is that naturally from what you've said, Asian Americans and Indian Americans, for that matter, have played a very stellar role in this campaign. And not only is the number of voters up, but I think, creating awareness, driving people to vote, driving home the various points and objectives of your campaign, for example, for your party, was done at literally the grassroots level and across the country. And that makes a huge difference. I mean, this is the biggest election in American history. In 244 years, we've never seen so many people go to vote. And so I think there are many, many classic things that happen in this election. What do you see moving forward? What do you see? Do you see a very significant rise in the number of Indian Americans actually capturing important positions in the Biden-Harris administration? And for that matter, also Asian Americans, not just Indian Americans. What do you think?
Sure, absolutely. I do. I mean, you look at our campaign alone. I mean, if you just look at the campaign and just mirror that into the administration or transition team, I think without a doubt that Indian Americans are going to play a key and decisive role. I mean, our chief financial officer, Saloni Multani, was Indian American. She was Gujarati. Maju Verghese, who was our early chief operating officer and senior advisor, he was also Indian American. You look at Vinay Reddy, who was, now the president-elect's longtime speechwriter and senior advisor on the campaign. Obviously he's Indian American. Gujarati, our senior policy advisor, Seema Sadanandan, as well as Mala Adiga. The list just goes on. And I mean, that's just at the national HQ level. Mehta Raj was another one that I think a lot of people have heard of. She was our digital chief of staff. And again, if you look into the states, you look into the DNC, wherever you look across the board as an organization, the campaigns had, Indian Americans throughout the campaign. So we're so proud of that fact. I mean, it certainly made a difference. It makes a difference when you're at the table, and I've seen it firsthand where people have advocated, people like Maju and Saloni and others have advocated for the community. And because of that, we've had the resources and investments I mentioned earlier, as well as a policy agenda. So, it's really unprecedented. We actually had not only an Asian American policy agenda, but if you go to our website, joebiden.com, you'll also see a policy agenda just for the Indian American community. And I think that's really, as a whole, the only specific ethnic community that we had a policy agenda for. So I think all that combined really shows you the importance of the Indian American community here, our votes, and, it really shows that our voices matter. And if I can just add on to that as well, recently, if you look at the policy review committees for the transition team, and again, if you go to buildbackbetter.com, you can take a look at that. There's so many Indian Americans throughout that already. You look at the former Surgeon General Vivek Murthy, who's leading up, the president-elect's task force on COVID, which is going to play a very important role. for transition and administration. You look at others, Atul Gawande, who's on the health working group, health policy working group, Sumona Guha, who's on our foreign affairs policy working group. And that's really consistent throughout the board. Seema Nanda is another one. So there's so many Indian Americans on the transition team alone. They were also on the campaign, and they're going to continue to be in the administration in very high numbers.
You know, we want to get you one of these days whenever we can with Priya and Perry. And both of these people have, by the way, played a very important role in connecting us with the team. You know, I mean, I've been around for 33 years. I know. I go back to a time when Senator Biden was a junior senator, and all these newspapers and TV channels that you mentioned, I launched TV Asia, News India Times, India West, Bina and Ramesh Murarka. So they are all friends and clients for a very long time, and I'm so glad that people actually homed in on the Indian American media to get the outreach going. And it does make a difference, you know. It makes people feel special. Do you see, because, you know, I see people like Priya, I mean, she's played such a beautiful role in connecting us through Foreign Correspondents Club, PIO TV, and then Paresh, you know, so this distinct, you know, do you see a lot of youth now actually stepping in the politics of America? I mean, particularly Asian American, Indian American youth. I mean, you symbolize the fact, but do you see a lot of them and still at an early age? I mean, you know, people who are still in their 20s, do you see that?
Sure, absolutely. And I think that's a great question. I certainly do. You know, I know before when you know, my dad was involved in politics here, Indian politics in America, you know, I would go to, you know, different functions with him, different programs, things like that. And, you know, a lot of the folks that we saw were older, you know, first generation folks. You know, now that I'm involved, I see so many young people just like me, my age, like you mentioned, you know, I'm 30 years old. But, you know, I really got involved in politics, you know, when I just started college and did internships and things like that. And I think so many people are emulating that. And that's certainly something, you know, I think that's great to really see, because, you know, when one of my first jobs out of college was working for the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. And at the time, I didn't see that many people. Actually, my boss, Lopa Talluri, who was a deputy chief of staff for policy and operations, she was obviously Indian American, and she helped me get there. But there weren't too many other folks around. And when I worked on Capitol Hill for Congresswoman Judy Chu, you know, I saw a couple folks, but nowhere near the level now. You go to Capitol Hill now, and I think you can at least find at least one Indian American or Asian American, you know, in at least one office, you know, per member, you know, if not more. So, you know, that's really encouraging. I mean, I think there's many more programs out there. You know, I took part in many of those, like the Washington Leadership Program. Here in my home state of New Jersey, we launched the New Jersey Leadership Program, where we're actually providing opportunities and internships for youth who are South Asian in high school or college to start getting that experience. And, you know, so and one reason we do that is because so many of our parents, mine included, you know, always encourage us to go into medicine or go into, you know, into science or engineering or business or the law, but never public service or politics or government. And I really think that culture is changing now. And I think really, if we want to have a voice and really, you know, lead the policy in this country, then, you know, our youth really have to get involved in government and politics.
So, my last question before I go to Venkat, one little question is, come on, I mean, where is Amit Jani going to be in the new administration? That's my question. You know, yeah. I'm sure you have an aspiration. You know, I mean, you've been in politics for a while. And I'm so glad. I must commend and compliment first your father and then your mother, that they have supported your aspiration and desire to remain in politics. I think it's very, very important for every immigrant community, and more so for us. But where do you see Amit Jani going?
That's a good question. Right now, I'm just getting some rest. I mean, you know, I've been on this campaign for well over a year, and as you know, it's really grinding work. You know, it's kind of like being a doctor in some senses, where you're always on call and, you know, you're always on your phone. So, you know, I am looking forward to getting some rest. I've been spending a little bit of time with my mother, who, you know, I haven't really been able to spend time with her for the past over a year. And honestly, the honest answer is I don't know yet. I mean, I know there's talks about the transition and obviously the administration following that, but I still think it's a little bit early in the transition process. We just got the outcome about last week, so I think the transition team's still trying to figure out what processes and where to place different folks. As you saw, the transition team just announced Ron Klain, who's going to be our White House chief of staff. But that was really just the first kind of appointment. And so I know the transition team's working on that and the process. And, I think we'll know in the upcoming weeks.
No, but I spent a good number of years in DC. So let me know if you want to find a good spot in DC. Yes, Perry, go ahead. I want Venkat to ask a question.
Sure. So Munishji, I think as you could relate to, I think it takes coming back from the political family. So I could relate to Amit, what he's talking about, growing up in Vidyanagar, growing with Baikaka's family and growing up into the Swatantra Paksha of now the BJP. I could relate to it. And I think I could also relate with Amit in terms of the transition team, what's going on. Too much is going on at this point. Ron Klain has worked in the past as a chief of staff, but more importantly, he was on the task force for the one of the Ebolas. So based on that, right now, although he's appointed, he's making sure that he gets somebody's input in the process, including Vivek Murthy's on a daily basis. What's happening? This country, as you speak today, is being impacting everybody's health. So that's the top of the priority for everybody. And I think Amit and every one of us would share with you that it is too early. Transition team has so much going on. Again, we are still dealing with the unrest in terms of the Trump, get him to realizations. All those are the challengings every day. And again, we have the 2 key seats of the Senate that we need to get over the majority. So there are so many loose pieces that we are trying to pull together. But I think as I know the Biden family is very disciplined, action plan, have everything thought through it. So nothing happens haphazard. It is all being sort of kind of a controlled environment with the good planning. And that's what makes you a successful leader, because otherwise, if you do what Trump does by tweet, it doesn't get you too far except where he got himself into.
Yeah, Venkat, you have to unmute yourself to ask the next question. But I think Venkat will sort of build in the fact, Amit, that through the Diwali message, what is in store? Do you feel with Biden-Harris team? Because there's been a lot of talk, and I'm sure Venkat, can you pick up on this? There's been a lot of talk on Biden and Harris and Indo-US relations. Go ahead, Venkat.
I think Priya wanted to add something to what Paresh and Amit were saying. Perhaps I think we should give her first an opportunity to say, and then I'll take it from there. Yeah, Priya, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I just wanted to add one thing is that Amit mentioned about South Asian for Bidens and Hindu Americans for Biden. So again, very dynamic group, and the woman who headed it is another one that we should sometimes talk to, Neha Diwan. And also from some Hindu Americans for Biden, we already had Priya Radhakrishnan and Shohini on our group. But, Vinay Limbachia and Murli Balaji are the ones that, we need to talk to, because really amazing people. And I had the opportunity to work with both the groups. So I just wanted to echo what Amit had said. The great
Venkat, before you, thanks for bringing in Priya. But, Amit, I want to give you an example that first generation immigrants, just like your parents were, or I have been, and I have now 2 sons who born in America. But Priya migrated 20 years ago, and now she's a citizen. And I was astounded by the role that people have begun to play now in the country. I came in the 80s, and before that, people came in the 60s, 70s. But people who are coming in later have played a very big role to integrate themselves and their future generations in the polity of that country. And I think that is very, very important to assimilate. And a good job at that, Priya. Venkat, sorry, go ahead. I know you have an important question.
Munishji, I want to make sure I'm careful in terms of Amit's time. Amit, how are you on time?
I'm good. I can stick around for a bit.
Okay. No problem.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. I'm delighted to see that in the Biden transition team, every second person is a person of color, and every second person is also a woman. that is possibly the most representative of American population as it exists today. And this is a good augury for people who are, people of color, who are blacks and Asian Americans and Indian Americans and Chinese Americans and Korean Americans or whatever. And Biden has to appoint something like 4,000 people to various positions during his presidency. Only about 1,200 of them need clearance from the Senate after hearings and so on. But the rest don't need to face the Senate hearings, and Biden can appoint people. And the fact that he has so many people of color and so many women in his transition team indicates that he is going to have many more people from the Indian American community and other ethnic communities to work for his administration, and that's a very wonderful thing. So, and also the Indian American community is the best educated community, and it earns more than any other minority community, as well as even white Americans. And intellectually, they are very well equipped. The kind of unpleasantness that has happened in the wake of the election results and Trump's refusal to concede leaves a bitter taste in the mouth. And I think the time has now come, with due respect to the founding fathers of the American and people who wrote the Constitution, I think it needs to undergo drastic changes. For starters, they need to abolish the electoral vote system, and also, small states having 2 senators and big states like California having only 2 senators. That's absolutely not right. They should have something like what other democracies have. Like, for example, in India, the upper house representation is based on population percentages and so on. I think the Indian American community should, or the Asia Pacific or API as a whole, should prepare a working paper to submit to President Biden when he assumes office on the 20th of January about the kind of changes that need to be made in the American Constitution, more than 230 years after it was written by the founding fathers. Because, I mean, the look at the audacity of a man who is refusing to concede his defeat. He thinks it is he was cheated out of victory, even though Biden has won 6 million votes more than Trump. I think this kind, also the gap between the day of the election and the swearing in is too long. I think they should do something, because if you have a madcap sitting in the White House who's refusing to vacate it, he can play havoc, order a war somewhere and do generally things which nobody can imagine. I think the community which you represent needs to come up with some recommendations to be submitted to the president for discussion in the media, to make some serious major changes in the American Constitution. Amit, Paresh, and Priya.
Amit, you go ahead.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you for that. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, like you mentioned, the transition team, the campaign, it's very diverse. President-elect during the campaign has always said that, his administration, and whoever works for him is going to look like the rest of America. And that's exactly what he's doing right now. Like you mentioned, so many people of color, so many people from different backgrounds, including the South Asian and Indian American community. So, I think he's going to continue to do that. And I think that's going to be very important, like you mentioned, in having different opinions, whether it's about the Electoral College or, whether it's about COVID or healthcare or, foreign affairs. So Obviously those diverse, perspectives are very important. And, we're so proud and happy that we have so many Indian Americans and South Asians on the team.
Amit, before you move forward, I just have one important question. Everybody wants to hear, because you played such an instrumental role as Asian American, Pacific Islander community head, and Indian American community has played a role. Look at the three of you. I mean, Perry lives right next door to Mr. Biden, and Priya has been, in the hot on the campaign trail for the last 2 or 3 presidential elections. You were in the middle of it, driving it. What's the Diwali message? I asked this question before Venkat made his comments. Is there something in the Diwali message to sort of allay the concerns that sort of came up during the campaign, that maybe President-elect Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris, are not that sensitive to India? Yes, are things going to change? People have this question. I mean, there is a big question. Somebody's mic is okay. Can you tell us in the Diwali message, what do you see, what do you expect, and where the Indo-US relations are headed?
Sure, absolutely. And I think Priya or Paresh can also talk to this as well, because they've been so involved. But first off, I hope most people have seen President-elect Joe Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris's message on Diwali on Saturday. They issued a joint statement, and I'm happy to share the link if you want to forward it along. But they wished a happy Diwali to the Indian American community, Hindus, Jains, Sikhs, Buddhists, everyone celebrating the Festival of Lights across the United States, India, and the entire world. They said, like so many cherished traditions during the pandemic, we know this. They knew that this year's Diwali symbolized the light over darkness, knowledge over ignorance, empathy over apathy, with deeper meaning. They talked about, how their hearts go out to everyone ushering in this new year with the recent loss of a loved one, those who've fallen on hard times, lost a job, their prayers remain with the entire community. And what they really said was that Diwali is ultimately a reminder of the light that's within all of us to hope and dream and to overcome, our differences and keep the faith in each other. And so the message goes on and on. I hope people get a chance to see that. They also tweeted, put it on social media, on Facebook, Instagram as well, both, President-elect Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris. But Munish, to directly answer your question, and then I know you brought up some disagreements or some talk around the fact of, now President-elect Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris. Honestly, I'm Indian American. I can certainly speak to, this issue, and just seeing them firsthand, the work that they've done, not just on the campaign, but even, prior in their roles in the Senate, and for Biden as in his role as vice president during the Obama administration. I don't think there's going to be any, anyone better, no better advocate to, build on the U.S.-India relationship. And that's something he's done personally, again, as vice president. I know a lot of people bring up, Trump's trip to India, but I don't know how many people know this, but as vice president, Joe Biden went to India with Dr. Biden. He's been there previously as well. So, I think some of this is just really noise, and a lot of it is just really misinformation from the other side. And, that's something I think the other side's really good at, is really using that misinformation on WhatsApp, on Facebook, on social media. And a lot of it was just noise. I mean, the reality is, President-elect Biden and Kamala Harris, they're certainly going to be the, biggest advocates for the U.S.-India relationship. I mean, look at some of the examples, the core examples, not just visiting India or just, the optics of it. But in 2006, then Biden announced his vision for a future of U.S.-India relations. And he said, and I'm quoting here, he said, "My dream is that in 2020, the two closest nations in the world will be India and the United States." And again, this is over 14 years ago. And he's really, worked to make that vision a reality, including leading the charge in Congress, working with Democrats and Republicans to approve the U.S.-India Civil Nuclear Agreement in 2008. You look back to the Obama-Biden administration, they really deepened the collaboration between India and the United States on strategic, defense, economic, regional, and global challenges. Biden was a major champion of growing and expanding the U.S.-India partnership. You look at, security itself, he supported, and he's publicly said this, he's publicly supported recognizing India's growing role on the world stage. He declared his support, the U.S.'s support for India's membership in a reformed and expanded United Nations Security Council. The Obama-Biden administration named India major defense partner, a status that was approved by Congress to ensure that when it comes to the advanced and sensitive technology that India needs to strengthen its military, that India is treated on par with our closest partners. President Obama and Vice President Biden at the time also strengthened our cooperation with India, the U.S.'s cooperation with India to fight terrorism in each of our countries and across the region. Obviously, Vice President Biden at the time said there can be no tolerance for terrorism in South Asia, cross-border or otherwise. And the Biden administration is going to work with India to support a rule-based and stable Indo-Pacific region in which no country, including China, is able to threaten its neighbors with impunity. So, I think for those that, don't think that, Biden will be a champion for India, I think you just look back to, the actual facts and what he's done, both he and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris. And I think that really shows you what you need to know on what a Biden-Harris administration and the relationship it's going to build with U.S. and India.
No, I do recollect. I would endorse that. I would endorse that because in 1987, when I first got a chance to interview then Senator Biden on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, he was an ardent supporter of many of those causes, including very, very passionate speech in Senate on South Africa. He grilled Secretary of State George Shultz. I will never forget that particular incident.
So,
but
Munish,
thank you so much. And Paresh, you wanted to, sorry, Priya, are you going to leave?
Yeah, I have to, but I can wait for another 5 minutes. But I just wanted to add to what Amit was saying is never forget our history. So Pokhran 1 is something that, India has to remember when it did not have voice in the foreign diplomacy world. Where the sanctions, India did not get any sanctions because of the vote of Joe Biden. And secondly, as an outgoing administration in 2016, Anu had mentioned that in our last webinar that then Vice President Joe Biden had actually given a party to celebrate Diwali. So as I said, compassion, humanity is all that those two Vice President-elect Biden and President-elect Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris embodies, and that is very, very much needed as a leader to take the country that is equality and prosperity for all.
So
thank you, Perry. You wanted to say something? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to add something to what Amit and Priya just said. I was at the church last Sunday morning with the President-elect Biden, and at the church I met with the church person there, and I asked them to see if it would be appropriate for them to say a couple of words about the Festival of Lights. Unfortunately, the church has a capacity of about 400 people. We were only less than 40 people inside, including the President-elect Joe Biden. And because of the COVID, he probably wanted to do something for the Festival of Lights, but it just can't be pulled together. And so the logistics, because of COVID, and again, you could learn from the President-elect Biden now that he really believes in the science. He listens to the science. He follows the protocols of the COVID. Nothing is more important than the health of the people. And that is what he at most sure. The economy is important. It's going to come back. As you could notice that people believe that the stock market is dependent on the Trump. That is not the true case. As you've seen in last few weeks, the stock market has gone up, and maybe it has something to do with the medications and the COVID and all the different vaccinations that are coming, whether it is Moderna or Pfizer. What we are learning is if we have the health of the US populations and across the world, I believe the wealth will follow accordingly. And that's what I think you would find the message from President-elect Biden. Secondly, don't forget, he is the one who is probably going to get India into some kind of a tighter positions with the UN Security Council, as Amit pointed out. So there are nothing but positive that at least we see it. And this is not because we are inside. I lived in this town with him for 36 years by now. And I know each one of the steps, each one of the small community, each one of the gathering, each one of the locations that we meet with him. He has always shared the positivity and his charisma and in terms of getting all of us to get along together and get a better world for all of us.
Thank you. Before you leave, Amit, I just want you to carry a message to the president-elect. I'm sure all three of you can, but you please carry it on behalf that this has been a good Diwali for them. So happy Diwali. Happy Diwali from PIO TV, from India, from the Indian diaspora globally. And I can't, please understand. I'm sure they know, and the rest of the campaign people know. But this has been the most watched election in the history of the world. We thought Modi's 2014 was it. I think this one, 2020, beat the Modi 2019 election. Of course, India has 900 million voters, and the game plan, the scale is different. But the tightest race, the most watched election, and a lot of interest in Indians everywhere. I'm not just talking about India. I mean, we have viewers in South Africa, in the Caribbean, in Europe, in Australia. Everybody is talking about the US elections. And of course, please wish Kamala Harris from us. Great. We are very proud of you, Amit. Do well. Go to the White House. Live on Connecticut Avenue. It's a great avenue to be there. Okay, and keep us informed of the next assignment you take up. I don't know if Perry Saab is going to give up all his business propositions to join you in DC, but I'm sure that if you were to call on Priya, she would be happy, only too happy to serve the country. Thank you very much, and we will now let you run. I'm sure that you have given us more time than you had agreed to. We really appreciate that, Amit. And whenever you find time, please work with Perry and Priya to get us some more people that we would like to introduce to our community, Indian American, as well as the others around the world, of who's worked on this campaign, who we can expect to see in star positions in the future. All the very best, and please give our best wishes on Diwali to your mother also.
Thank you again, and I'll stay in touch, buddy. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year, happy Diwali. Thank you, Munish, and everyone. Priya, Venkat, Paresh, thank you so much. Happy Diwali. Take care.
Munish ji, if it's okay with you, Priya ji has to leave. I wanted to make sure that I'd make about a 1-minute introductions to Senator Coons as we go live to USGLC. So if you want to bring that picture that
So Anil, can you open a window and another window here on our screen and show the picture that we had shared with you of Perry with the junior senator from Delaware who took the position of Senator Joe Biden after he gave up the senatorial position to go become the vice president of the country. Yes, go ahead, Perry, all yours.
So now I wanted to, at this point, Munish ji is going to give us the link for USGLC. It is United States Global Coalitions. And in the coalitions, I'm part of these coalitions for last few years. What we are learning, and the picture that shows you that when Prime Minister Modi came, both Senator Coons and also the VP Biden has invited me to spend a day with them and with Prime Minister Modi, and it was an honor and privilege. There is a talk among the insiders that Senator Coons could be the Secretary of State. So based on all that, there is a very good forum that is going on live right now. Senator Coons and Cindy McCain, the wife of late John McCain's, going to be joining us for next about an hour. It is going to be strictly how the relationship is going to be built internationally. How do we deal with what we have nationally? So this is a very good forum. Usually we used to do it in person locally in Mid-Atlantic, but because of the COVID, we are doing it in virtual, and everybody's welcome to see. So Munish ji, if you could get the live Zoom for at least a few minutes, and then people would have the link if they want to look it up more.
Okay. Before we do that, I want to thank Priya because I know that she has things to take care of. Priya, thank you very much. Thanks for joining. We wish you the best. I hope you do take up some position in the new administration for which you have worked very hard. And I'm sure Perry, being the senior elderman of the Democratic Party, will put in a good word for you, just like Amit Jani would. And please thank your children and your husband for cooperating very well today. You know, they were very happy. I'm sure you made some good Diwali sweets and desserts and gave it to them. But thank you
Yes,
so much,
thank you
Priya.
so
Thank you,
much.
Before we
Priya.
move on,
Stay in touch.
we'll see you soon again.
Thank
We'll see
you.
you soon.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
so much. So I just wanted to say there's a meme going on right now because, I have a son who is a teenager. They used to say first that, the parents wanted their kids to be doctors and lawyers and engineers. But now the hopes have gone high and the target is only president and vice president. So, happy Diwali and a prosperous new year to
Thank you
all of
much,
you.
Priya.
Thank you so much.
Wish
It's
all
an
your
honor.
wish comes
Thank
true.
you.
Thank you. And then,
Thank you.
as Perry was telling us, we will now, Anil, if we can, switch to the US Global Leadership Coalition proceedings. Senator Christopher Andrew Coons from Delaware is an American politician who is now serving in the US Senate since 2010. And Coons has been a county executive of the Newcastle County, which of course Perry is a very proud member and a part of that team now. And Coons has been on the Senate Foreign Relations Subcommittee on African Affairs. So he's a player on the Foreign Relations Committee, just like Senator Biden was earlier. And Coons has also been seen throughout this Biden campaign as an effective emissary of Joe Biden to former and current Republican lawmakers. Remember, Republicans had a lot to do with this campaign of the Democratic Party because of incumbent President Trump, probably, and as one saw, not getting along with his own party people. So a lot of the Republicans were able to support the president, Vice President Biden, now President-elect Biden, in the 2020 campaign for president. Anil, if you could please bring up that window, and could we bring up that USGLC link and show what's happening there, and maybe we get to see Cindy McCain and Christopher Coons.
And Munishji, so Senator Christopher Coons stepped into the shoes of what Joe Biden had the position. So that's why it makes it. So he's speaking live now.
There he is. Anil, you can switch on the video. I mean the audio. We don't get the audio, Anil. Is there a problem with the audio? Anil, is there a problem with the audio? We are not getting the audio. I know that this is a Zoom link and we are trying to cross integrate it on our virtual link, but is there a problem with the audio? Maybe it's not connecting properly. Can you try one more time? Anyway, you know what we can do is that we can tell people that this is going on live right now in the United States, and the US Global Leadership Coalition proceedings are being championed by Senator Christopher Coons. And as Perry Patel said, that he is somebody who's probably seen as one of the people who could be considered for a potential position as US Secretary of State. Let us see if we can chime into this, but maybe there is, because this being on Zoom and we are trying to bring it on our platform, there is an audio issue here. We are trying to see. No, we are fine, Anil. Output level, Anil, there is no output level. Did you see that? You had input levels showing, but no output level. Can you go to that window again? Because we do want people to hear this. Can you show the output levels? Yeah, right there. Can you click? Audio settings. Output level. See up there, output level. Input level is
all the way up.
Yeah, up there. Just under test speaker, you see output level, but it's not showing anything. You have input level.
Got it.
Yeah. Are you showing speakers how? Joining a meeting. Anyway, it's not, Anil, you have to go to that speaker headphone connection. No, the test speaker. Can you go to that selection, and we will have to use another selection. No, up there on the very top where it says test speaker, you have to, on the right hand side, you see the speaker settings. No,
It will
on the
give you
right
the
hand side.
alternate.
Yeah. Let's see. Same as system. Let's see if that plays. No. I don't know why it's not playing. Usually it should. It should not be a big
And
deal.
just so you know, while we are on the screens, it's a Senator Chris Coons. On the right is Representative Lisa Blunt Rochester. She's our congressman, and she's the one who had a lot of work in the transition. And she's the one who recommended Kamala Harris as the vice president. So she was the one who was the African American woman who was helping in making the decisions who would be the vice president pick would be. So these are all the movers and shakers from Delaware. I'm lucky to work with each one of them as I serve as the chair for the Indo-American Associations of Delaware.
That's wonderful. Could you just tell us, Perry, where for people can find this link so that, because we are having a technical issue between integration, so people can probably just go to the website and see this. Those who are interested in what the future of Biden-Harris foreign policy shall be, because the US is talking to global leadership and talking about what will be the future of the Biden-Harris administration foreign policy coming in January.
Sure. So I think if you want to go to the US Global Coalitions, it has
What is the website, Perry? Can you tell us what is?
US Global Leadership Coalition.
Okay.
If you go to the website, it has the events. And in the events, if you type it in today's date, it is a Mid-Atlantic event.
Mm-hmm.
And you should be able to see it. It comes up as first. It is Mid-Atlantic Regional Summit, November 16th, 12 o'clock American time. So the featured speaker is Senator Coons is leading it. Then we have the COVID doctors on the panels. We have a senator from Bob Casey from Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of good speakers, including Cindy McCain. So we have about 12. There are some U.S. House of Representatives. So there are approximately 11 or 12 current congressmen and senators on the panel, and they're all talking about the global leadership. So anybody and everybody could log into US. You could use usglc.org/events.
Okay,
And,
so that
yeah.
let me just, so it is US.
GL.
Just one second. So it is US, G for George, L for leader, C for coalition, usglc.org and /event. Yeah, /event.
Yeah, you got it. And the first one comes up to be the Mid-Atlantic Regional Summit.
Okay, for those who are interested, you can tune in there and watch the proceedings. And Senator Chris Coons, who is from Delaware and who took up Joe Biden's position in the US Senate, is leading the dialogue. And I'm sure that one of these days we can impress upon Perry to get us, Senator Coons on one of these broadcasts and talk to us about, what to expect in the new administration. But thank you very much. Before we close, I want Venkat to give sort of closing remarks, and then we will chime off. Venkat,
I do not think that in the history of Indo-US relations, we have had a team which has been, so friendly to India in the sense that you now, for the first time, you have an Indian American with a Jamaican father as vice president, and also Joe Biden, who has been closely working with Indian Americans, and he has been very sympathetic to India's cause. And when he came to India in 2013, he said he would like to see the bilateral trade between India and the United States to be $500 billion. It's about $150 billion. Now I'm sure that efforts will be made to see that the trade reaches that figure by the end of the Biden-Harris team's term in 2014. And there are a lot of misconceptions among many Indians about the comments Biden and Kamala Devi Harris had made about the laws India made concerning Kashmir and Jammu. I think Indians should not take American politicians' sympathy or understanding for granted. It's very, very important to brief them about why India did what it did. And once that is done, things will be sorted out. And in any case, when you are not in power, you say certain things. But once you are in the White House and you get thorough briefings by the Indians as well as the American administration officials dealing with the India desk and so on, I think things will be all right. I'm not at all worried about the future of Indo-US relations. All that I want to say is we have never had it so good, in the sense that you have a lady who is half Indian and half Jamaican as the vice president of the United States, and you have a great friend of India in Joe Biden. And with these two people running the US administration, India can look forward to a golden chapter in the history of our bilateral relationship. And all that I want to say is the Indian American community has arrived in the United States, given the kind of great interest they have taken in working for the winning team. And so, this is great. I see a bright future for the Indian American community and Indo-US relations also. And I'm confident that by the time, never mind the strange behavior of the losing candidate who is incumbent sitting in the White House, but on the 20th January, Joe Biden will be sworn in as the vice president of the United States, and things will be back to normal. And some sanity will be restored in the US administration. And, the Biden has already said that he will rejoin the Paris climate thing, and Iran and so many other things which this guy has dumped. So it will be a good thing for America as well as for the rest of the world. On that note, I wish to conclude this particular discussion number 4 on Indo-US election results. Munish?
Thank you, Venkat. Thank you, Paresh ji, and please make sure that the Indian American community that has worked so hard with leaders like you championing and pushing for Biden and Harris get their role in the new administration and are able to serve not just America but the whole world. Thank you very much again. This concludes our broadcast. We will be back again with more faces, more figures that have influenced this election and will continue to influence the future of America and the world from the Indian American community. This is Munish Gupta signing off for PIO TV, FCC South Asia, UNI TV. Thank you very much. Good night and good morning.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.